The prairie stretched wide and quiet under a sky of fading gold. Sam Carter leaned against the fence rail, his head tipped low, watching the cattle move slow and steady across the pasture. He was a man of few words, but folks in town always said you could measure his worth not by what he said, but by what he did. And one thing everyone knew, Sam was loyal to the bone. Beside him, riding tall on his bay horse, was his closest friend, Luke Henderson. The two had worked side by side on the ranch for near 15 years, through dry spells, roundups, and the kind of troubles that would have broken weaker men. "You reckon this winter's gonna be worse than the last?" Luke asked, his breath curling white in the evening air. Sam gave a half smile. "Ain't no winter tougher than us, Luke." The two laughed, but there was weight behind their words. Out here in the wide country, winter wasn't just a season, it was a test. And though the stars were clear above them that night, a heaviness hung in the air, the kind that whispered of storms not yet seen. It was the kind of night when friendship was worth more than gold. The next morning dawned gray and bitter cold. The sun tried to push through heavy clouds, but the sky stayed sullen, as if holding its breath. Sam saddled his horse, Dusty, while Luke tightened his scarf against the biting wind. "We best drive the stragglers in before this weather turns mean," Luke said, his voice muffled. Sam nodded. "I'll take the south range. You check the creek beds. Meet back by sundown." They split off, hooves crunching against the frozen ground. Sam worked quick, guiding cattle toward shelter, though he kept glancing at the horizon. The wind had a sharpness to it, a warning carried on every gust. By midday, flakes of snow began to dance through the air, first gentle, then heavier, swirling like feathers in a storm. Back at the barn, Sam waited, stamping his boots for warmth. An hour passed, then two. The storm grew teeth, slashing sideways across the plains. But Luke never came back. Sam's gut tightened. He knew the land, knew how a man could lose his bearings once the snow wrapped the prairie in a blinding sheet of white. He pulled his hat low, swung onto Dusty, and muttered to himself, "Hang on, Luke. I'm comin'." The world had turned into a blur of white and wind. Snow whipped across Sam's face, stinging like 1,000 tiny needles. Dusty fought against the drifts, hooves sinking deep, but Sam urged him forward with quiet words. "Steady, boy. We'll find him." The familiar landmarks were gone. The cottonwoods by the creek, the fence line, even the ridge, all swallowed in a curtain of snow. Sam leaned low in the saddle, scanning for any trace, hoofprints, a broken branch, something to tell him Luke had passed this way. But the storm was erasing every sign as quick as it was made. "Luke!" Sam shouted into the gale, his voice carried off by the wind. He tried again, louder, though it felt like yelling into the belly of the earth. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. It was hard to tell. The storm warped time, stealing sense from a man. Sam's hands grew numb, his beard heavy with ice. Still, he pressed on, driven by a force stronger than fear. Then, through the blur, he spotted a dark shape half buried in the snow. His heart pounded. He spurred Dusty forward, praying it was Luke and not just a trick of the storm. Sam slid off Dusty and stumbled toward the dark shape. His boots sank deep, snow clawing at his knees. As he drew closer, his chest tightened. It was Luke, slumped against a drift, his horse nowhere in sight. "Luke." Sam dropped to his knees, brushing snow from his friend's face. Luke's lips were blue, his eyes half shut, but he managed a faint smile. "Figured you'd come," he whispered, voice weak as a whispering wind. Sam swallowed hard, his throat tight. "You fool. Couldn't wait till spring to get yourself in trouble?" Luke chuckled faintly, then coughed. His coat was frozen stiff, and his hands trembled from the cold. Sam pulled his own blanket from the saddlebag, wrapping it tight around him. "Ain't letting you die out here," he muttered, fierce and determined. The storm roared louder, as if daring Sam to try. Dusty shifted nervously, his mane crusted with frost. Sam looked out at the endless white and knew the hardest part was still ahead. "Come on, partner," he said, hauling Luke up with all his strength. "We've got miles to go, but I'll see you home. I swear it." Getting Luke onto Dusty was no easy task. Sam gritted his teeth, lifting and steadying him until his friend was slumped against the saddle horn, barely holding on. Sam swung up behind, wrapping one arm around Luke to keep him steady. The storm showed no mercy. Wind clawed at their faces, snow drifted high, and every step forward felt like pushing through a wall. Dusty stumbled more than once, but Sam leaned close, whispering, "Just a little further, boy. We ain't quitters." Luke stirred now and then, mumbling half-formed words. "Sam, why'd you come?" Sam tightened his grip, answering with quiet certainty. "Because that's what friends do. You'd have done the same." The world was a blur of white, but Sam guided Dusty by instinct, recalling the dips and rises of the land. He prayed with every breath, not for himself but for Luke. His own fingers had gone numb. His lips cracked from the cold, yet he pressed on Dot at last. A faint glow flickered through the storm. The lantern by the ranch house. Sam's heart leapt. Home wasn't far now if they could just hold on a little longer. The lantern's glow grew brighter, cutting through the storm like a promise. Sam urged Dusty on, though every step seemed to drain the last bit of strength from horse and rider alike. When the barn finally came into view, Sam nearly wept with relief. He slid from the saddle, half carrying, half dragging Luke inside. The warmth of the barn felt like heaven itself, the hay soft underfoot. Sam wrapped Luke in every blanket he could find, then rubbed his frozen hands, trying to stir life back into him. "Stay with me, Luke," he said firmly. "You're not quitting on me now." Luke's eyes fluttered open, a weak grin forming. "Reckon you always were the stubborn one." Sam barked a laugh, though his voice cracked. He built a quick fire in the corner stove, feeding it until the flames roared. The barn filled with heat, driving out the bite of the storm. All night, Sam kept watch, tending the fire, checking Luke's breathing, and whispering words of encouragement. The blizzard raged outside, but inside the barn, friendship was the shield that held back the cold. For the first time that night, Sam believed they just might make it. By morning, the storm had spent its fury. The world outside lay hushed and white, the drifts piled high against the fences, the air sharp but calm. Inside the barn, the fire still glowed, casting a soft light onto weary men. Luke stirred, color slowly creeping back into his face. "Looks like we made it," he whispered, voice raspy but stronger than the night before. Sam poured him a tin cup of warm broth and handed it over. "Told you I wasn't letting you go." A carter never breaks his word. Luke managed a sip, then gave a tired chuckle. "Well, reckon I owe you my life." Sam shook his head. "Out here, we don't keep score. You'd have done the same for me." They sat in quiet for a while, listening to the crackle of the fire, the storm now just a memory on the wind. Beyond the barn walls, the prairie stretched on, harsh and unforgiving, yet also filled with a beauty only those who endured it could truly understand. Sam looked at his friend and smiled. "Storms come and go, Luke, but friendship, that's the one thing that lasts." And in that truth, both men found their strength.